this. Man, is that pretty. It's beautiful, though.
Finally, after twists and turns, crawling through the cracks, victory is within their grasp.
All right, well, here they are. They're coming through a sinkhole. You know, here we are at the end of the water's journey, and most people think of this as the beginning. In reality, this water has come all this way through all these features. Underneath golf courses, restaurants, highways, just unbelievable. You would not believe the places y'all been underneath.
In the end, the dive team successfully traveled more than 10 miles through the underground systems of Florida to enlighten people about their relationship with their drinking water. Recognizing that protection of recharge areas is one of the best ways to safeguard groundwater, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection is currently purchasing thousands of acres of sensitive lands within the recharge zones of several of Florida's largest springs.
Oh, hi. Pleasure to meet you.
A major victory. State legislators have put a priority on funding research, education, and land acquisition efforts through the Florida Springs Initiative. Over 300 farmers have voluntarily adopted and installed facilities suggested by best management practices. Additional efforts being made by farms, businesses, homeowners, and local government are proving that we can reduce, even reverse, the negative impact being made on groundwater and springs.
It's the greatest groundwater system on Earth. There's not another aquifer on the planet like the Floridan aquifer. We can make a difference. We can change the negative direction the water quality and quantity is going, but we just have to put a little effort into it.
As I said, we were fortunate to learn about Wes's work, and we're proud that we could continue to recognize his legacy and his importance to our area on this issue. We could not hold an event like this and at this current level or provide these prizes to our winners without the support of our sponsors. So when I call your name, please come up to receive your sponsor thank you. We want to thank Terry Skiles for donating Wes's beautiful image of a manatee, which ties together the underlying theme of our event, that our quality of water not only affects us as humans, but also the lives of the wildlife that are all part of this important system. We're also grateful to have the support of Fracture for framing this beautiful photograph, and as recognition for our sponsors, and we'd love for the Fracture representative, Meredith Panaji, to come up and say a few words. It's Meredith. Great. Also, we're grateful to be here at the Cade Museum, and it's a wonderful venue for us.
We are glad to help sponsor with all of this. The environment is extremely important to Fracture from everything we do. From everything our factory runs, running from solar, using as little as we can and leaving the smallest footprint we are capable. So we are so happy to be able to help you guys.
Thank you very much, Meredith. All right, so first, our dive-in sponsors at the $500 level. First Federal Bank, Joanne Eddy, Vice President, Financial Center Manager. Joanne. And picture time that way. I got Stephanie. I think we went. Oh, cycling too fast. Here we go. And then Chessie Flanders, Remax Professional Realty. There's Chessie. Oh, I screwed something up there. There we go. All right. Thank you, Chessie. And next, Lowry Financial Advisors with handsome Joe Lowry to accept that award. It's me.
All right, here.
All right.
You go get your picture. You go get your picture taken.
Just like the Hair Club for Men, not only am I the MC, I'm also a sponsor. Next, we have Jen Figueroa with Remax Professional Realty. Come on down, Jen.
Jen spends a lot of time in the water. She's almost a professional rower.
Yeah, that's the almost part, so yeah. Next, Culver's, Megan Olson, owner and operator.
Get your raffle tickets. Culver's has donated a nice, if you're a golfer, nice set of golf stuff.
Thank you, Megan. And then First Magnitude, Christine Denny. People really appreciate their brewery, so.
Christine's been with us since day one.
Thank you to all of our $500 dive-in sponsors, now our Big Splash sponsors who all made $1,000 contributions to our event. Capital City Bank. Is Kip here? Or John? John Sanchez accepting. Thanks, John. Another handsome recipient. So you join our Rotary Club and sponsor, you get the even more recognition. So next, WFT 89.1, Heather Van Blocken. Oh, sorry. Not Heather, but Ethan. Way to go. Thank you, Ethan. And then WCJB Channel 20. We're grateful to both WRUF, Bill Curtis, and WCJB for production of a public service announcement that helped promote our event. All right. Someone from WCJB here to receive that award? If not, we will provide it to them. Yeah, it must be on, yeah. Probably a car accident on I-75 these days. Oh, no, not a joke, but just... All right, moving on. Yeah. That's why I am an almost professional MC and not a professional MC. Finally, we're very grateful for our title sponsors. Repeating again, Ginny Springs. Let's have Taylor Ray Skiles come up. Thank you, Taylor. Thank you, Ginny Springs. And finally, GRU, Rick Hutton, come on down. And we're going to let Rick say a few words in gratitude for their contribution. There you go.
Man, I get to speak too. How much time do I have? All right. I really don't have much to say, a lot to say, but just want to say thank you so much. It's really an honor to be able to help sponsor this event, and really appreciate all the work that Rotary does locally in a whole variety of things to make people's lives better. And of course, water is really important to us. Also really happy that we were able to nominate our friends over to Alachua County Environmental Protection for an award this year for all their work with water conservation. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Rick. All right, now I'm going to turn the time over to Jimbo Skiles for a special announcement.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you again, sponsors. Since we started this event, For those of y'all that don't know Rotary, we do have 7 pillars of focus that we accomplish around the world. And water is one of those issues. And we've been mainly focused locally in giving out the awards that we'll be doing next for those that Wes thought would be continue his legacy, those that are educators, nonprofits, and of course for-profit businesses. We've had some great farm-related dairy farms and stuff change their management practices to conserve more water. And but one of our desires has also been, Rotary is international, is to be involved in what we call a Rotary International Global Grant, where we partner with an organization that's in a foreign country to help supply them with various either education needs, medical needs, or in our case, water needs. And so we've been looking and waiting to find the right match. And I have to admire and compliment our Tuesday Club Rotary members. We've got several here. If you're in the Tuesday Club, raise your hand. And yay, Tuesday Club. Specifically, Richard is here. They helped start a Sustainable Cambodia, which has done amazing things in the war-torn country of Cambodia a number of years ago, from providing education to the children there, to helping them sustain businesses and generate their own income. We want to do something similar, and we've been looking for a partner. And Jacob, come on up. I'm a big tear bag. It doesn't take much. A McDonald's commercial can get me, you know. So, but anyway, Jacob is one of the bravest men I've ever known in my life. He's one of the survivors or one of the lost boys of Sudan. This man traveled over 2,000 miles to safety to get to a refugee camp that was later adopted by a Michigan family that went to school here and now has started a wonderful medical clinic for women and children, mainly pregnant women, right? And in his home country, southern Sudan. So when we've known each other a number of years, and I attended a fundraiser here this summer, and they talked about the water needs they have. The area that their clinic in has been flooded. They don't have access to water. The bad water continues to cause more problems for the children and mothers there. And so we are going to work towards a global grant. I'm sorry.
Now you're going to make me cry.
I know. All right, I'm going to stop. We're going to partner with them, but I want Jacob to spend about 5 minutes talking about their project.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Jimbo, thank you so much. Okay. I was not quite sure. Was that 5-minute African time or American time? American time. From the bottom of my heart, Jimbo, thank you. Thank you. And everyone, I'm really grateful. I thank God to be here. Jimbo, it's always make me emotional because of the love and the love of Rotary. So the first 1 minute is just simply to say thank you. 30 years ago, the importance of water, I truly understand when I was tracking over 2,000 miles where you don't have water, and if you do have water, it is dirty, and that dirty water, you drink it, you have more problem with communicable diseases and preventable diseases. So I truly understand, to the point that most of our lost boys, we start drinking our own urine. That's the importance of water, okay? Fast forward, I want to thank Carl, if you can raise your hand, the president of the Rotary Downtown. Thank you. I went and spoke to your club, and then my president is there. Greg, raise your hand. And we meet here on Tuesday. And what made me melt my heart, and I could name other two club, is the teamwork. So how you've been supporting us, and thank you for all this. And I want to personally, I wish I had met Wes. What a nice story of his passion for water. So thank you. Southern Sudan Healthcare Organization, we started it 14 years ago, and our simple model is we bring health and hope to where it is lost. And with what I've been through, I could just say that I came here 20 years ago, barely speaking English, and here I am speaking English with you. The support when I came here to University of Florida, got my doctorate degree. I was in the bubble, but since I joined Rotary, which is a great organization, if you haven't joined, please do, because they are people of action. And because of the support, as a lost boy, only in America is when you can be whatever you want. You guys support us not only with money, but with education, but with the support of working to help other people. So I always say, my life experience as a lost boy gave me the experience and drive to help displaced people around the world. We are talking over 100 million people that are forcefully displaced. 100 million, think about that. It's a lot of people. And only 1% of those people get resettled are fortunate like me to be in the United States. I'm not a mathematician, but to even be in this great country, I'm always grateful. So basically, briefly, maternal mortality rate is the worst in the whole world. South Sudan right now was affected by the flooding that happened, terrible flooding since 1970. 8.9 million out of 13 million need humanitarian assistance. But maternal and child health is the worst in the whole world. In terms of infant mortality rate, it's ranked 8. Look at the lower statistic. 75% of child deaths are due to preventable diseases that with clean water. And that is so important. Here is our 6 pillars. Health, we said we have WASH, water and sanitation and hygiene, where we're going to partner with Rotary Club in downtown and other clubs that are welcome to join us for our Rotary Club. We also have nutrition, we have health, all these emergency, education. You know, we were the first group to provide vaccination for COVID-19. Community development, we have a holistic approach. That's the camp. You can see here, it's not look like Chance Hospital, is it? But this is what we have. But with that, in this camp, there's no water. There's almost over 100,000. And just to let you know, you're supposed to have one well for 20,000 people. So right now, we only have one last year, and this is what we have. We want to provide more well to them. And this is one of the Rotary Club grant that we're going to do. So we basically need a well for safe and clean water, bathroom, showers, water for school, water for, that's the school we just did, and the water tank. And we just only have one right now, and there's almost 100,000, so we want to improve that. With that being said, I just want to thank you, and I will stop here because I'm pretty sure my 2 minutes, 5 minutes is up. But from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for the support, and thank you, and thank you.
You're welcome. I need Stephanie, Diane. Diane, where's Diane? Come on. Some of you, yes, Stephanie, you? No, Ed's taking pictures. So this represents just our seed money. Thanks for your participation, your presence here tonight, for our sponsors. This is just going to get us started to put money in the bank per se, and to go after other Rotary clubs and other potential donors to help us apply for that grant. And our goal is about $60,000 to build and do the water needs in Southern Sudan. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, now it's time for the award presentation. When this event first started, Nominations came from members of the Rotary Club of Downtown Gainesville for the 3 categories. After a few years, we expanded that so that those eligible to make nominations included previous winners. And then, of course, like I mentioned, several years later, we named the award after Wes Skiles, who was a frequent speaker friend of our club and known as an educator, explorer, and protector of our aquifer. We had a wonderful field of nominees to choose from this year. We appreciate the help of past winners and others in providing nominations. Our award for this year includes a beautiful picture provided by Margaret Tolbert. Also, I want to thank our keynote speaker, Jason Gulley, who's going to be helping us to present these awards. I don't know if we told you that, Jason, but I'm telling you now. Come on down. So, anyway, you just get to look pretty and hand the award out. So, Jim will let you know what to do. Thanks. Sorry about the... Anyway, here we go. Like I said, almost as professional. All right, so we're going to announce each winner, and then you'll hear a little bit more about them. We're fortunate to have our friend Bill Curtis, who's a past keynote speaker, do the explaining. So first, we're going to start in the business category. The winner is the Alachua County Environmental Protection Department.
The Alachua County Environmental Protection Department has become a statewide leader in implementing innovative programs for water conservation and protecting the Floridian aquifer and our area springs. Under the leadership of the Water Resources Program Manager, Stacy Greco, the department has engaged in a number of innovative programs to educate the public on the connection between lawn watering and fertilization practices and our springs. These include codes to reduce irrigation needs by efficient designs and to limit fertilizer use in periods when it might harm water. The researching compost soil amendment and to increase aquifer awareness locally. Other programs include working with HOAs to be sure Florida-friendly landscaping is an available option. Turf swap rebate to encourage attractive yard options that require less water. These programs effectively meet the very definition of water stewardship. The Rotary Club of Downtown Gainesville encourages you to check out their website. Congratulations to the Alachua County Environmental Protection Department and Stacy Greco.
Now, we also have Stephen Hofstetter with us tonight, the chair of the department, the head of the department. Wonderful. Would you like to make any comments, either of you?
Thank you so much. This is so many of my mentors are in this room, and my team, unfortunately, we were working hard today. They're probably still out educating. I'm really lucky. I have a wonderful director in Stephen Hofstetter. But none of this work would happen without the amazing leadership we have in Alachua County with our county commissioners that have the political will to do the policies that we've mentioned. Thank you all, the community, for showing up and for showing how much you care about water. So greatly appreciate it. And if you go to the county administration building in the future, you will see a new display board from the Rotary Club with the award money. We will continue to educate people there. So thank you so much.
After living in Gainesville for some time, you know that Chris Bird was the department director for more than 20 years. Having retired in 2020, the Rotary Club of Downtown Gainesville felt he could not recognize the Department of Environmental Protection without also recognizing Chris. Chris is here. Would like to come forward? Oh, here we go. All right. We're also going to hear about him.
Chris Bird helped lead Alachua County to become one of the most water-progressive local governments in Florida, creating model wetlands protection, water conservation, and stormwater management. Chris's long-time professional water leadership, combined with personal passion and his continued commitment to work on water and climate change in retirement, is highly respected by many. Chris was hired in the county's EDP office from the private sector to help the push for new state laws for fuel storage standards for gas stations to protect drinking water, wetlands, green space, stormwater management, and other programs. Throughout his tenure, he kept the county far ahead of its time and ahead of peers on restoration, conservation, and other water protection initiatives. Thank you, Chris, for your hard work and dedication.
Thank you. That's a professional MC doing veneration. So, if you don't know, Bill Curtis is a luminary in the documentary. Anyway, also known for his role as the introductory narrator on Acknowledgement. But anyway, he spoke a few years ago. Thank you, Chris. Like to say anything? Or? All right, great.
Well, thanks so much. This is certainly I'm glad that Stacy and the EPD were recognized first, because what I was going to say about me getting this recognition is that you're only partly right giving it to me, because it really is a huge team effort. And Stacy said it better than me. It's really this community. One thing I think everybody, whether you've lived here a long time or whether you're new to this area, there's a very strong community value here for environmental protection and water stewardship. And we're really lucky to have so many passionate people that do just brilliant things every day. One thing I'll say about Stacy, when I worked with her, if I wanted to get something done, I would probably try to give it to Stacy if I could talk her into it, because she could get it done, and I think it's reflected. It took her about half the time to get this award that it took me. So anyway, again, the whole department, I want to thank them again. So thank you, everyone.
Our next award is presented in the nonprofit category, and the honoree is the Friends of Little Orange Creek.
Friends of Little Orange Creek works with local partners to promote and protect Little Orange Creek Nature Park and Preserve, and hosts two major programs. Nature Day at Little Orange Creek is an annual event providing opportunities for the community to join in nature-based activities. In addition, FLOC hosts the Creekside Environmental Education for Kids, providing educators, materials, and transportation to schools in East Gainesville for field trips to the park. In partnership with the Hawthorne Library, UF, and Alachua Conservation Trust, more than 1,000 students in underserved schools each year participate in the outdoor experience at no cost. The goal of the Creek program is to provide opportunities for students to engage with and learn from nature, so that they can use their new knowledge to be stewards for the environment in Alachua County, or wherever their lives lead them. Spearheading this successful organization is President Randy Cameron, as FLOC's president, who works very hard to acquire grants, provide curriculum, and oftentimes facilitate programming at the Nature Center and Preserve. Congratulations to FLOC's members, board of directors, and President Randy.
Randy, would you like to say anything? Yes. All right.
Fast, I'll probably read it. First of all, I want to thank you all so much for this honor. Now good? Okay. I'm grateful for this wonderful award on behalf of Friends of Little Orange Creek for our Creek program. I, of course, could not have created this program alone, and could not be running it without the amazing and dedicated staff and volunteers we have on board. I'd like for each of you to stand up and be recognized. So, Kate Helgren, our program facilitator extraordinaire, who brought a wealth of experience to our program. Let's see, Kimberly Tillman. Yes, stand up. Amis Hussein. Izzy Garcia. Maddie Heisey. And our brand new program coordinator, Kira Clancy. We also have a few men on board to make it. That's Nathan, Danny, and Isaac, and we're happy to have them with us too. And I could not have made this program happen without our first program coordinator, Christy Penman. If you would stand up and take a bow. Your dedication, creativity, focus, persistence, nudging. The program actually looks a lot like what it looked like when Christy left us. She created so much of it for us. And I'm very grateful, and I miss our collaboration, but I think we may be starting something again. Let's see, I want to particularly thank our mothership, Alachua Conservation Trust. Without your support, consultation, people power, grant funding, and friendship, we definitely would not be here. Thank you so much. I'd like to take a couple of minutes to honor and remember my dear friend, Kathy Cantwell, my mentor and inspiration for this wonderful work. For surely without her, this program wouldn't be here, and neither would I. This was to be her program, and as a pediatrician and environmentalist, nothing was more important to her than getting kids away from their screens and outdoors into nature. She unfortunately passed away just as we were awarded funds to acquire the land, which is now Little Orange Creek Nature Park and Preserve. She knew we won the funds just before she passed away, and sat a few of her friends down, me included, to tell us what intense work is ahead to make this a public park, create a nonprofit, and develop an environmental education program for area youth who might otherwise not have opportunities to be immersed in nature, to learn about conservation, and to grow up being stewards of their environment. Well, that turned out to be my job. And as they say, the rest is history. I never actually met Wes, but there is a connection I feel in all this. As Kathy died the same week as Wes. And I remember reading a beautiful editorial by Ron Cunningham in The Sun about the loss of two local great environmentalists gone too soon, Wes and Kathy, about the work they had accomplished, the legacies they left, and the work they had left undone. Sometime following that, I happened to have trouble sleeping one night, and in the wee hours I turned the TV on to PBS. I found myself utterly lulled into a dream state as I watched Wes and his team filming while scuba diving underground in the caverns of our aquifer, which you saw a bit of here, right here under our feet, and through Sonny's barbecue. When I awoke, I thought the images were a dream. I actually kept that with me a long time, thinking I had dreamt it. They remain dream images that I often visualize and lull myself to sleep with. So in fact, I feel connected to Wes through his amazing diving ventures, deep within the caverns and springs we all love so much. Thank you, Wes and Kathy, for all you did for our environment and our beloved North Central Florida. Thank you to Alachua Conservation Trust for this nomination and your confidence in us, and to the Rotary Club and the West Skiles family for this award. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Now we have our award for individual educator, Dr. Maia McGuire.
Dr. Maia McGuire was awarded in 2015 a NOAA Marine Debris Outreach and Education Grant to start the Florida Microplastic Awareness Project. FMAP is a science-based citizen project whose objectives are to raise awareness of the sources and threats of microplastics in the coastal environment and to teach communities how to reduce their contribution to the plastic problem. Florida Sea Grant-related extension programming facilitated by McGuire reaches regional, state, and national audiences. As an educator, Professor McGuire has won many awards, including the Florida Wildlife Federation Conservation Educator of the Year. For water and for water creatures, her work, especially the successful outreach to the public, has been and is essential. Congratulations to Dr. Maia McGuire.
I'll keep it quick. Thank you so much for this award. It means a lot. I guess I have one request. Can I get an audio copy of that? I can have it on my no answering machine.
Maybe a good way to wake up, I guess, if that is your alarm clock. Dr. Maia. One last item I wanted to mention. One of Rotary's, as I said here, is a focus is clean water and sanitation. We also assist with disaster recovery, and this year, due to the terrible storm surge and damage caused by Hurricane Ian, we are sending $1,000 to the Rotary Disaster Fund to support those in need of our help here in Florida and elsewhere. I think the key, one of the key takeaways we have from all of these honorees is the importance of collaboration and working together, government, private citizen, industry. Together we can make significant headway in addressing some of these challenges. It's now, I think, a part that we're all looking forward to. We'll now hear from our keynote speaker, Jason Gulley, and Bill Curtis will do the introduction.
Dr. Jason Gulley is a geologist, writer, and photographer. Jason's photography and writing dovetail with his research on Florida's springs, underwater environments, and glaciers. He is a National Geographic explorer and photographer, as well as a cave and technical scuba diving instructor. He first picked up a camera in high school, and his first professional job was shooting news and sports for his hometown Community Weekly newspaper in Harrison, Ohio. His photographs and stories have since been published by a range of national and international newspapers and magazines, including the New York Times, the Washington Post, The Guardian, National Geographic, Wired, and Geo. Jason is most well known for his expeditions to explore and study glacier and underwater caves. But when COVID canceled international travel, he turned his camera toward Florida's springs and manatees. When not on expeditions, Jason teaches courses in hydrogeology and scientific diving at the University of South Florida. He lives in Tampa with his partner, Patty, and their rescue dogs, Peacock and Olson. Please give a warm Gator welcome to Dr. Gulley.
So we don't have a slide clicker that works for this presentation, so you're going to see me do this. And the gentleman off to the right, he's going to do the slides like this. All right. So Florida has more than 1,000 freshwater springs. It's the most dense collection of freshwater springs of anywhere in the world. Collectively, every day, these springs are discharging tens of billions of gallons of fresh water to the surface. Okay, that water is not only important for keeping the springs themselves full of water, but rivers like the Santa Fe, shown in this image, even though the water is very, very dark, is composed primarily of spring water. So, interesting bit of trivia, this is the Devil's Eye and the Devil's Ear Spring and Ginny Springs. If you were to add up all the water coming out of those springs with the rest of the springs that are accessible from Ginny Springs property, they contribute 40% of the flow of the entire lower Santa Fe River, just those springs. So water flowing out of springs is primarily discharging through extensive underwater cave systems in Florida. Now, not every spring that you can go to has a cave that's physically accessible to us, no matter how hard we try and wish that it could be accessible to us. It doesn't often happen. But because Florida has been blessed with a large number of springs that are filled with warm, clear water and a large number of underwater cave systems, it's become one of the most popular places in the world for people to come and learn how to cave dive. So I came down here in 1998 and did some of my first cave dives right here at Little River Spring. So I think one of the things that attracted me and one of the things that attracted a lot of other people to cave diving is this idea that there's this hidden world beneath our feet, right? So there's this enormous chamber, right? The only way that you can get into this cave is to dive into a relatively nondescript pond in the middle of a swamp on Florida's Gulf Coast. Like you could walk past it every day for your entire life, and unless you grabbed a scuba tank and went down there, you wouldn't even know it existed. Diving in caves gives us windows into these amazing natural phenomena that we can see in the subsurface. So for most of the year, caves are discharging crystal clear water, but right before floods, if you're able to jump into caves at just the right time, you can catch this amazing kaleidoscope of colors that sets up in spring vents where the tannic water starts mixing with the clear water that's coming out of the ground. Most of the time it lasts for a day. So caves like the Devil's Cave system and Ginny Springs wind for miles through the aquifer. We can go underneath of the Santa Fe River in a number of places. I've been in caves underneath the Intercoastal Waterway where you can hear boats cruising above your head. And all of this is going on, and you're just in your own little world. So cave divers in the room will recognize this. It's a very famous landmark inside the Devil's Cave system. It's the park bench. You can just imagine that if the cave was dry, it'd be a good place to sit and eat your lunch. And sitting here and looking at this cave, when I was shooting this photo, I was just thinking about how much cave diving had changed in almost the 25 years that I've been participating in it. The training is better than it's ever been. The equipment is more dependable than it's ever been. When I first started cave diving, you were lucky if your dive light lasted for an hour. Now my dive light lasts all day and it can burn a hole in the wall if I keep it in the same place long enough. It's so bright. And those have allowed us to push into parts of underwater cave systems that were previously unthinkable. At the bleeding edge of underwater cave exploration right now, we have autonomous underwater vehicles like the Sunfish, built by Stone Aerospace, that are now allowing us to autonomously explore using robots parts of the Florida aquifer system. So this is Sunfish making some early dives in a sinkhole on the Gulf Coast. So if you have me back 25 years from now, I'll probably be able to talk a lot more about what Sunfish has been up to. But for all of the positive changes that we've seen in cave diving as a sport, there have been a lot of negative changes associated with the environment that we participate in that sport in, and that's in springs. And this spring, I'll show a photo of Troy Spring a lot of times, and people, mostly not from Florida, will be like, wow, that's a great photo, but for me it's depressing, right? Because I remember in 1999 sitting in the same place where this photograph was taken, and I was staring through crystal clear water and I could count the individual leaves on the trees overhanging the spring run, and now, this is about as good as visibility gets. It's kind of pea green, and that's something that we've seen happen in springs kind of around the state, coinciding with serious declines in water quality. So, other things that will happen, we'll sit around and people have been diving for a while. I haven't even really been cave diving that long compared to some people in the room. Caves that used to be incredibly hard to get into, lots and lots of flow where you're pulling yourselves along the floor and the walls of the cave to get into it. Kicking's just not going to get you anywhere. Like the caves, some of the caves are just not pumping as hard as they used to be. And I think it's easy for people to sit around and talk about like how much better things used to be in the past, but it's not just our collective memory. They're actual real-world examples of problems with springs. Yeah, so this is a photograph of White Sulphur Springs. It's up by the Georgia state line. It was one of Florida's first tourist attractions. In the 1800s, people thought that sulfur springs had medicinal properties. People would come from around the country to bathe right here in the bathhouse and hope that the sulfur would deal with some of their medical problems. Starting in about the 1970s, due to extensive groundwater withdrawals, this spring stopped flowing. Hardly ever flows today. This is Sulphur Springs, another Sulphur Springs in the city of Tampa. It's the city of Tampa's backup water supply. In the 1930s and 40s, that entire area was like a place to go and see and be seen. I don't know if you've been to Sulphur Springs recently, but it's not quite that anymore. It's a very economically depressed part of the city. But in the 30s and 40s, there was a high diving platform located at this spring. It was crystal clear water. It had water slides. I obviously wasn't there, I've just seen pictures. Arcades, people would dress up, streetcar lines ended here. But by the 1980s, because of rampant development in the area around the springs, it had become flooded with fecal coliforms and the city had to close it to swimming. So in 2000, they built a concrete swimming pool right next to a spring that used to provide those swimming services for free. So this having to replace things that we've messed up and used to get for free is something that's happening time and time and time again. Silver Springs, again, one of Florida's early tourist attractions. Long before people went to Disney or to Universal Studios, they come here to ride in glass-bottom boats. Early underwater filmmakers would come here. Film sequences for Tarzan, Creature from the Black Lagoon, I Spy were all filmed at this location, partly because it was very, very pretty underwater and the water was very, very clear. Well, today, volunteer divers go into the spring run once or twice a month to clean off the statues that you can see down there in the basin from the statues up here that you can see in the basin left over from the I Spy movies, so that people on the glass-bottom boats can have something to look at other than piles of algae. This is Captain Oscar Collins. He's been a boat captain at Silver Springs for over 50 years. And I'm photographing him underneath of the glass-bottom boat, through the glass bottom as he's mopping his boat, getting ready for a morning tour. And after we got done with this shoot, I was chatting with him and I was like, Oscar, what have you seen in 50 years at Silver Springs? And he said, there's a lot more algae than there used to be and a lot less fish. And I think if we were to ask anybody who's been around any individual spring for that long, they'd say the same thing. So if we had a time machine and we could go back in time and see what springs looked like 50, 60, 70 years ago, a lot of them would look a little bit like Rainbow Springs does today. It's a photograph of Rainbow Springs, beautiful beds of eelgrasses, subaquatic vegetation, and it's the foundation of a healthy spring ecosystem. So if we think about forests and the way that trees are the foundation of a healthy forest ecosystem, the subaquatic vegetation is the same for a spring run. So if we lose the trees, we lose the forest and all the animals that live in it. If we lose the subaquatic vegetation, we lose all the animals that live in spring runs. And that's exactly what's happened in almost all springs across the state of Florida. So this is a photograph of one of the last remaining strands of eelgrass at West Skiles Peacock Springs State Park, and it's being smothered by this algae. Troy Springs, like a lot of other springs, every exposed surface is covered in this troll hair, slimy algae that wasn't as prolific as it was today. It wasn't as prolific in the 90s as it was today. I remember sitting in a room 25 years ago listening to people like Wes talk about how much more beautiful the springs were 25 years before I sat in the room, and things have just gotten worse. We know that they've gotten worse, not just because people think that they've gotten worse or we talk about them getting worse. We actually have data. So scientists and technicians go and collect water samples from springs across the state, and they measure it for various things that are dissolved in the water, and what we've seen from those and these sensors that record a variety of other constituents in the water every couple of seconds, that nutrient pollution concentrations are soaring in springs across the state. And a lot of that nutrient pollution is created right here in our own state. So inorganic fertilizers, this is a photograph of a strip mine located up by Georgia. One of the primary components of fertilizer is phosphate. Florida is one of the largest phosphate producing places in the world. So a lot of the phosphate that goes into the inorganic fertilizer mixed with nitrogen is produced right here in the state. Dairy farms and confined feeding operations, poultry, pigs, they produce vast amounts of manure. One of the things that blew my mind as I started photographing the agricultural industry, which is very important to Florida's economy and feeding us, is just how much manure cattle produce. 200 dairy cattle produce the equivalent amount of sewage as a city of 5,000 to 10,000 people. There are 125,000 dairy cattle in the state, and most of them are located in near springs. Florida is a very popular place to move. 800 people a day are moving to the state, so area around springs is a relatively inexpensive place to move. So you spend a lot of time in the area, you'll see places that used to be trees that are now fields, and places that used to be fields that are now getting converted to houses. And because it turns out that it's a lot more inexpensive to build a house with a septic tank than it is to build a high-quality wastewater treatment facility, a lot of the houses that go in with individual septic tanks. Now, I grew up in a house with a septic tank. Like, it's a great way to live if you have lots of houses that are very far apart from each other. But as we put more and more houses together that have everybody has their own septic tank, it basically becomes death by 1,000 cuts. So a lot of the problems that are facing Florida Springs are the same problems that are facing manatees. So I think anybody that's lived in Florida over the last 2 years has heard that we're in the middle of a record manatee die-off. 1,100 manatees died primarily in Indian River last year, and we're on track to have almost as many manatees die this year for a lot of the same types of problems that are facing springs. Now, if you had told me 3 years ago that I would be working on a project about manatees, I would have literally laughed in your face, because I could not think of anything more boring to photograph than a manatee. Now, in fairness, as you can tell, I like cave diving, right? It's super exciting. Snorkeling around in 6 feet of water and watching a fat, slow-moving animal wasn't really my idea of a good time. But again, in fairness, I've never seen them in the wild. In every photograph I've seen of a manatee looked exactly the same. This little Buddha-like creature floating in clear water, partially smiling with a sunburst in the background. And I was like, it's been done. But I knew that I couldn't tell the story about Florida Springs without talking about manatees, right? So I went to a couple of smaller springs on the Swanee River. I wanted to be able to photograph manatees in very, very clear water, and not have boatloads of snorkelers dropped on my head like is going to happen at Crystal River. So I jumped into this spring, and the first thing I noticed is like, oh, I get it, they are adorable. And the next thing that really captured my attention was just how graceful manatees are. And I think that most of the images that I'd seen of manatees just emphasize they're like these really ugly but kind of cute creatures. But I was just blown away by like how graceful they were swimming. And I saw manatees doing things that I had never seen photographs of before. So manatees aren't particularly social, but sometimes they play like these guys, and when they do, it's adorable. So I canceled all my cave diving plans for this foreseeable future, and I went back every day and spent all day, every day photographing manatees. And one of the things that we learned being a wildlife photographer is that manatees have their own different types of personalities, right? So this guy, super curious, he reminded me of being at a dog park, right? So he'd run along on the bottom with his little flippers, and he'd stop just a couple feet in front of my camera. He'd check me out, and then he'd run away, right? And then, meanwhile, all of his friends are kind of in the background right there, like, we don't even really care about that guy, Bob. And Bob would run right back up and stare at me and run away. Other manatees super curious about what was going on with my camera. This guy tried to eat all of my electrical cables that run my camera strobes. Manatees, it turns out they have prehensile lips, very much like an elephant has a prehensile trunk. And they love to play with string and ropes and other things, and they love my electrical cables. It's not a coincidence that manatees' lips behave a lot like an elephant's trunk. They share a common ancestor with the elephant. They evolved from that common ancestor in West Africa about 60 million years ago, walked out into the Atlantic Ocean and started eating all of the seagrass that was abundant at that time, and they still have. If you see right on his flippers there, he's got some fingernails, much like elephants have toenails. They're arenae mammals, so manatees surface to breathe about every 3 to 5 minutes when they're awake and every 20 minutes when they're sleeping. As mammals, mothers give birth to live young. They typically have one calf at a time. Twins are super rare. The calf will nurse from its mother, like in this photograph, and the mother and the calf are bonded for the first 2 years of their lives, and the calves learn everything that they need to know about how to be a manatee from their mother. They follow the mother around to figure out where to go to eat seagrass, where to go to find vegetation in freshwater environments, and importantly, where to go to find warm water to survive winter. Manatees, we get used to seeing them in clear water in places like Fanning Springs or Crystal River, but they spend most of their lives in very turbid nearshore environments, very, very dark. So manatees can see, they're not going to win any vision competitions, they're not going to fly jets for the Air Force, but they can see. But the way that they actually sense their way around the environment is with this tiny network of hairs that they have that coats their entire body. So if you look at the top of this manatee's head and then all around his mouth, he has these little whiskers and hairs, and they can feel slight variations in water current, and pressure, temperature. The whiskers that they have across their mouth are super sensitive. They can tell the difference between things that they want to eat and things that they don't want to eat in zero visibility. They have voracious appetites. Manatees are primarily vegetarian. They're not entirely vegetarian. They will eat small amounts of shellfish and fish, but mostly they want to eat. Oh, sorry, that was just me tapping. So we can go back. There we go. Thank you. Great. So here we go. So put the fingers down. Manatees need to eat about 15% of their body weight in vegetation every day. So if you think about an animal that can grow to weigh 2,000 pounds, that's an enormous amount of vegetation that they need to eat every day. So we need vast stands of aquatic vegetation, healthy aquatic vegetation to support Florida's manatee populations. Right. Cool. So in addition to eating, manatees also really enjoy sleeping. It's their 2 favorite activities. And because they have to eat so much and sleep so much, that's mostly what they do. So they sleep about 40 to 50% of the day. So they'll sleep on the bottom, and they'll also sleep just kind of bobbing right below the surface of the water. Because manatees spend most of their lives in less than 10 feet of water, this puts them in the same space of water that's occupied by the 1 million+ flocs that are registered in the state of Florida. So, 96% of adult manatees show propeller scars or boat strike injuries from being struck by a boat at least once in their life. 25% of adult manatees show evidence of being hit by a boat 10 times during their life. Okay. So because we get so used to seeing manatees with these types of injuries, we tend to think that maybe it's not that big of a deal. They're very survivable. In most years, boat strikes are responsible for about 25% of manatee fatalities, and the injuries can actually be very, very deep and internal. So a lot of people have suggested that if we put shrouds around the propellers that we could protect manatees. The biggest problem with boat strikes, though, isn't so much the propeller, it's the keel. Manatees' ribs are super brittle. So when boats hit them, the ribs have a tendency to shatter, like in the CT scan from Zoo Tampa over on the left. And then they'll puncture the lungs and other types of internal organs, and that's what ends up damaging manatees. So propeller shrouds probably not going to help anywhere near as much as just slowing the boats down a bit. Florida manatees are a subspecies of the West Indian manatee. This is a photograph of a West Indian manatee swimming around coral off the coast of the Yucatan. So West Indian manatees, a lot like their early ancestors, spend their entire lives in very, very warm water. The nice thing about the Yucatan, they don't have winter. Right? In Florida, it's nice, people want to move here, but it still gets cold, especially around this area. So manatees, even though they look fat, have surprisingly little body fat. They can't survive at water temperature colder than about 68 degrees Fahrenheit for prolonged periods of time. Otherwise, they get something called cold stress syndrome. It's a bunch of physiological changes that happen in their body. It shuts down blood flow to their skin, and their skin literally starts to fall off. Okay, so this is a manatee that was recovering from some very severe cold stress injuries at Zoo Tampa, the second largest manatee rehabilitation center in the state. Citrine, this is several months after she was first admitted. I believe she was released last year. She was in recovery for about a year before she was able to be released. If you go to Zoo Tampa or SeaWorld, almost all of those manatees are being treated and will be released in the very near future. So historically in Florida, manatees would go to places like Homosassa Springs, where you've got groundwater, which is discharging with a constant temperature of 72 to 74 degrees to keep warm, right? It's warmer than 68 degrees Fahrenheit. I get cold if I'm in the water for extended periods of time, but the manatees love it. So, but starting in the 1940s and 50s, Florida's development boom led to the construction of a wide number of primarily coal-fired power plants. The thing that's really neat about coal-fired power plants is it takes a lot of water to cool off all of the equipment that they're using to generate power. So they'll suck in ocean water and they'll heat it up as it cools all the equipment, and it gets returned back to the ocean, and it creates a literal hot tub for manatees. So if you look closely at this photo, you can tell there are hundreds of manatees like bobbing around in the warm water. It's awesome. They love it. The sharks love it. You have an opportunity to go to Tampa Electric Company's Manatee Viewing Center. It's neat. But it's created a massive conservation problem that's been more than 60 years in the making, which is that as these power plants are retired and they're replaced by greener energy sources or other types of power generating equipment that require less heating, less cooling water, that means that these artificial hot tubs that manatees have become dependent on now for 3 generations, and they return to year after year after year because that's where their mothers took them. We don't know how to tell manatees that they're not going to be there in the future, right? So when we retire these, manatees are going to show up and wait for the warm water to come out like it does every year, and it's just not going to happen. So there are a large number of biologists that are trying to solve that problem. So power plants and the nutrient pollution problems that we have in springs have collided in Indian River Lagoon to give us the massive manatee die-offs that we're having in Florida and are continuing into this year. So if you look very closely into the background, you'll see some black smoke coming up. This photograph in the River Lagoon of a manatee that's kind of early in the die-off in March of 2020. So manatees would come into Indian River Lagoon every winter because there are a number of power plants that are there, and they would use those to survive winter. Well, starting about 2020, record numbers of manatees started dying, and because a lot of biologists went out and they examined the bodies of the dead manatees, they were able to find out very quickly what was happening. The manatees were starving to death. So Indian River Lagoon used to be one of the most productive estuaries in the world. It is completely covered with seagrass. And again, seagrass, foundation of a healthy estuary ecosystem. As a result of decades of lawn fertilizers and septic tanks flooding Indian River Lagoon with excess nutrients, it triggered a phytoplankton bloom that blocked all of the light that the seagrasses need to photosynthesize, and they died. Right? So all the grasses died, all the manatees showed up, and ordinarily they could go out into the colder water and find something to eat and then go back to the warmer water to warm up, but they weren't able to do that this year. One of the things that really surprised biologists, one is they've never seen manatees starve to death before in large numbers, but the other is that given a choice between getting cold stress or starving to death, manatees choose to starve to death. It's a photograph of some manatee ribs that were covered in the same algae that wiped out the seagrasses. So, one, that was super depressing, so I wanted to go out and meet some people who were trying to solve the problem, right? Because I think it's one thing to identify a problem, and it's really easy to get fixated on it and think that, things are really awful, but there are people that are out there trying to solve problems. And, Zoo Tampa, SeaWorld, all of the rehabilitation centers are able to go out and help individual manatees. One of the problems with this die-off that was unique is that typically die-offs are caused by very, very cold water or a toxin. And those are preferentially going to kill the younger, weaker manatees. This was a die-off that was caused by starvation, and the mothers were able to continue nursing their calves until they starved to death. So there's a large influx of calves that have gone into the rescue and rehabilitation centers that are now occupying space that injured manatees typically would have had access to. So it's created a big problem for trying to figure out where to put these manatees. So these little guys that come into Zoo Tampa are going to be there for about 2 years until they become old enough and mature enough and large enough to be released into the wild. So, baby manatees, they're adorable, but they require around-the-clock care. So people at Zoo Tampa and SeaWorld come in every 4 hours to feed these manatees around the clock. They're coming in the middle of the night. They're coming in during hurricanes. Okay, they get top-level medical care. There are veterinarians that specialize in aquatic veterinary medicine. Most of them are actually trained right here in Gainesville at the University of Florida. very well-known veterinary medicine program. That's a big mouthful. So again, the goal being, eventually, once they reach a healthy weight, we can release them back into the wild, and they can repopulate. This is a very famous manatee, Chessie, who likes to wander. So he makes it all the way up to like Chesapeake Bay in Massachusetts some years before he turns around and comes back to Florida. So, yeah, some manatees don't go very far. Other manatees like me, like when I left my hometown, I was like, how far from Harrison, Ohio can I get? So, again, it's really easy to fixate on the problems and, wonder if there are any solutions. And I told you earlier that things are getting worse in most places across the state, but there are a couple of bright spots. There are very few places, I think, in Florida that you can go and say that, things now are better than they were 10 years ago. Crystal River is one of those places. All right, so Crystal River is a photograph. You can see there's a whole bunch of manatees in these canals. Development in Crystal River did a number on manatee habitat. It did a number on springs. We're probably not going to plow all those houses over and turn it back into a natural habitat. Okay, this is not practical. But what they have done as a community is they've recognized that there has been a lot of damage that's been done, and they're trying to fix it. So not that long ago, as a result of a legacy of nutrient pollution, largely sewage that was getting dumped and lawn fertilizer that was getting dumped directly into Kings Bay, it triggered the same explosion of algae that wiped out all of the seagrasses in Crystal River. This is a photograph of a manatee trying to find something to eat underneath of all of the algae that smothered the seagrasses there just a couple years ago. Well, as the community came together, and in addition to private funds and state funds and a bunch of other sources, they decided they were going to fix it. And through trial and effort, I'm not going to go through like all the things they did, but they tried and they failed and they tried and they failed, and they finally came up with something that seems to work. All right, so what they have to do is there's this legacy of nutrient pollution that exists in Kings Bay. They have to go and they dredge it up, right? Because if you don't, every time the wind blows, it resuspends all of that same nitrate and phosphate into the water column that triggers the same algae bloom. So if you don't remove it, you don't eliminate the source of future stored nutrient pollution. So then the next thing that they do is they go through and they replant all the seagrasses in the sand that exists underneath of all of that muck. I've been there. The muck in some places is 10 feet thick. Okay, so when they first replanted all the seagrasses, the manatees came in and they just pulled all the seagrasses like right out of the ground, and there are no more seagrasses, and they're like, huh, all right, well, let's try something else. So they started planting the seagrasses underneath of these exclusion cages. So the manatees can't eat the grasses for the first year that they're in the ground, and that gives the root systems time to become deeply and firmly established in the sand. And then the roots can radiate out almost 20 feet in all directions underneath of the cage. Right after a year, they pull the cage out, and then the manatees can go in and they can eat the grasses. They're going to pull up some roots, but not all of them. And we keep sprouting more and more and more grasses. So fast forward to today, is completely and totally transformed today. Like just in the 3 years that I've been photographing in the area, I've seen dramatic increases in visibility. Like the first couple times I went to Crystal River, I was like, I don't even know why they called it Crystal River. It doesn't make any sense. But like now, you can start seeing some of that coming back. The fish are coming back. And if you think about the history of Crystal River, it was a community that by and large really did not care very much for manatees. Part of the community did, part of the community didn't. They wanted to drive boats and go fishing. But one of the things that I've seen time after time after time, going to Fish and Wildlife Commission meetings, is that now all of these different groups with very, very different backgrounds are coming together because they realize that all of them, all of their activities, all of their homes, the things that they love about Florida come back to having healthy water. If we don't have healthy water, and if we don't come back to try to figure out how to improve our impaired environments, we're just not going to have the same types of experiences for our children that we had ourselves growing up. Thank you.
Problems have solutions, and I'd really love to hear more about what you see as the solutions as we move forward.
Yeah, so I think that it's multifold, right? And unless you get buy-in from the individual communities, you're not going to get anywhere. The only thing that's really going to fix problems that we have with springs and estuaries is trying to figure out how to reduce the amount of nutrient pollution that's going into the ground and how to reduce the amount of water that we're taking out of the ground. Right now, how we do that is complicated, and unfortunately, it's difficult for us to do that as individuals. That has to be done at the legislative level. Which is tough, right? But these are tough, difficult problems. There's a lot of super low-hanging fruit too, right? Things like you can have the argument that we need to have crops, right? People need to eat, right? But do we need to have crops that go into fuel tanks, or do we need to, for example, do we need to? I had a really good analogy and I just lost it. Same things it's like dairy farms. We need to have dairy farms, but our next to spring is the best place to have a dairy farm, for example. But the dairy farm's already there, right? So it's not like we can just show up and be like, hey, we would really like it if you went someplace else. It's a big, very difficult problem. Oh, the low-hanging fruit, lawn fertilizer. It's crazy, right? We need to eat crops, but we don't need to eat our lawn. So just trying to eliminate lawn fertilizer at the legislative level, I think, is something that would have a lot of support. But Crystal River, the first thing they had to do is build a whole new wastewater treatment facility, right? Because they used to just take all their sewage and dump it into Kings Bay.
How many
Hold on,
acres?
Tom.
I can talk loud.
Yeah.
How many acres? How many acres of eelgrass have been restored in Crystal River?
Yeah, they're going for about 100. They're going to plant 100, but it's been radiating out from there, so they're pretty close to that right now. I think they're about 93, 96 acres, somewhere in that neighborhood. And like I said, if you've been to, if you went to Three Sisters 2 years ago, there was no grass. You go there now, it's everywhere. I mean, it's really impressive. The area around Hunter Spring, where that picture that I had of the manatee that was completely and totally surrounded by algae, some of that algae is still there. It's part of an earlier replanting effort that wasn't successful. But if you go right next door to where they changed the way that they're doing these plantings, eelgrass everywhere, and it's really spectacular. Every year I go back, I'm just amazed at how much further I can see and how many more fish there are. Some of the fish I wish weren't there, like tilapia, but we'll take what we can get right now.
Hey, Jason, fantastic presentation. Frankly, that was really excellent. There's another low-hanging fruit option relative to manatee habitat and feeding opportunities. If you were to remove Rodman Dam, say, from the Ocklawaha River and provide access to Silver Springs and the 20 springs that are currently inundated, what do you think about that option?
Yeah, I mean, anytime I get to work on stories about manatees, that's something that I'm always talking about with the story team. It's, like I said, unfortunately, every time Rodman Dam gets close to coming down, somebody figures out how to save it. But I'm hopeful. I think eventually it'll become too expensive to maintain.
Whoops, Dave. I wanted to recognize David Cabela with the Keepers of the Springs and their Glow event they had this summer to talk about it a little more.
Yeah, if you didn't hear about it, we threw a little fundraiser to try to raise some. Sure. Hi, I'm Dave. Hi, everybody. So first of all, fantastic pictures, amazing, and thank you so much for your information. We are currently, like my nonprofit, we're trying to generate funds based on the model of Crystal River to bring that model here into the Gainesville area and the surrounding springs. And one of the things that they've done in Crystal River, which has been incredibly successful, 80% success rate for their planting, is that they've actually taken some of the strategies that have been used on crops to genetically basically breed eelgrass to be more resistant to climate change, to be more resistant to nitrates, to be more resistant to even lower amounts of sunlight. Do you think that there's going to be any pushback if we were to try to bring that sort of like a GMO approach to eelgrass and conservation?
I expect anytime that you say GMO that there are going to be some people that think that it's awful. I think that probably one of the best things to do is to take people, or even just take pictures of places, like Crystal River, and show this is what it used to look like this is what it could look like again, and this is really the only way that's going to happen. One of the things that they had to do in Homosassa and parts of Crystal River is because there's less fresh groundwater coming out of the ground now, the salinity is increasing, and that's wiped out a lot of the freshwater adapted species of not really seagrasses, but aquatic vegetation. So they've had to come in with like more haline tolerant species and replant those. So I think that the environment is already pretty disturbed. I think that we should probably try to use every tool that we have available responsibly to bring it back to as close as natural as we can.
I have a question that's rather pedestrian, but it has to do with, do manatees like fresh water? It's over here on the left shoulder.
Yes, all manatees have to drink fresh water. So I'll be working on a project next year in West Africa where there are a bunch of manatees that live in an inverse estuary. There's so much evaporation in the estuary that it has a higher salinity than the ocean. And manatees there have to go and find fresh water. There's a small population of Florida manatees that have become established in the Bahamas, and the big struggle that they have is trying to find fresh water that they can drink as well. Dugongs, which are related to manatees, are the only member of Sirenia that don't have to drink fresh water. So if you're like in a boat, like if you go to like any of the saltwater boat yards or anything, you'll see like a lot of people washing their boats, and manatees will come up and drink the fresh water coming off the side of the boat.
Right.
Jacob mentioned that Rotarians are people of action. Wes was a person of action. And one of the things I have to tell you about Wes, he was a diplomat because he could work with both sides of the table to help solve problems and look at ways to solve problems instead of arguing them about them. So Rotary's a lot like that. We're looking to solve problems. If you're a person of action and want to become involved in Rotary, look for somebody that's gotten this tag on, and we'd love to talk to you about joining Rotary. My quick story with Wes about manatees, we were surfing after a hurricane in Cocoa Beach one year, and we're bobbing up in the waves, and I see this big something in the water, and of course, since Jaws came out, you're worried about sharks, right? Everybody's mind is included about the sharks. Sharks were probably out there that day. But I go, Wes, look, is that a whale? And he looks once or twice, he goes, no, it's a manatee. And evidently they had swam from the Indian Creek or river out through Sebastian Inlet or somewhere. And that was my first experience with manatee out in the ocean. So we want to thank you. Jason has come up here on his own time, his own nickel. We've been so fortunate that we have National Geographic explorers that charge a lot of money to talk to an audience, and they do this. They volunteer their time and effort. We thank you so much. And even though you're a photographer, to have a Wes Skiles among yours is something Jason said he would like to have. So we want to present you. This is a part where we have a basket. That's all the tickets in that basket. Jason, I got another job for you. You get to draw the winning tickets here.
You have to get a break, doesn't it?
I wanted you to come in.
Almost professional. All right. First of all, Jason, if you want to pull a ticket, this is going to be the raffle winner for one of the Wes Skiles photographs. All right, read the numbers for it.
690020.
690020. All right, come on down. Congratulations. Our second raffle prize will be for a gift basket from First Magnitude. All right, so let's have another ticket. Gift basket from First Mag.
690080.
690080. You, Senor Walter Berry, there you go. Yeah, not on your bicycle. All right. All right, third raffle prize is for a family pass to Ginny Springs, including 4 tubes.
690014.
014, last 3 digits. 014. 690 014. Is that Olga? All right, Olga. All right, now a Culver's Golf Package. Culver's Golf Package. Does it include Culver's food too? Just golf stuff, which is great. Yeah, you can eat a burger while you're playing golf. Yeah. All right, here we go.
Six 690085.
Hey, come on down. Congratulations. Some good sponsor mojo happening there. All right. Now, Chessie Flanders curated gift basket. Our next prize. Chessie has great taste. I'm sure you'll love. It's pretty big. Don't get a hernia, Jim. All right.
We are at 690073.
690073. All right. Now you can pick which one you want to keep. All right, here it is over there. All right, go to bed. You get to deliver. All right, now we have a surprise from First Federal Bank.
Is it money? My bonds. 690065.
Or you can trade it for your number.
690065. All right. Without saying anything else, I'll say I hope your good luck continues all the way through next Tuesday. All right. Now, our last item, the Rotary Seafood Festival ticket. Oh, hold on. It's not on my sheet. All right, good. More prizes is good. Oh, excellent. Sorry, we got a couple of great photographs taken by our very own keynote speaker, Jason Gulley. I think it's separate. More winners. Yeah, more winners. All right.
690069.
690069. All right, come on down.
And 690082.
690082. Richard after this. You get the second. You can have a secondary raffle afterward if anyone really wants it. Walt's gonna set up out by his car in the parking lot. Black Market Rotary raffle prize. All right, ready for the seafood spectacular?
So this is really cool. We have multiple Rotary clubs here in town. The Tuesday Club, which I refer to as the Big Club, they host a seafood festival out at Hatchet Creek. It's next Thursday. It's a week from tomorrow, starting at 5:30 to 8:30 p.m. And this is a wonderful. Some of y'all might have been to the game feast that happens in the springtime. This is a more intimate, more delicious atmosphere of wonderful seafood. Thursday. So we're giving away one ticket, but there's an opportunity on your way out to support Rotary's activities and buy more for the rest of your family, okay? See you last Gregory on the way out. You want to buy tickets?
690077.
Thank you everyone for coming. It's been great to have you here. That was an outstanding presentation. We've all been edified by these honorees, by the good work that they're doing, and hopefully we are more energized to work together to protect our water resources and some of the things that make our community so unique and special. Amen.
One quick thing. Dr. McGuire, tone again. Donate your check back to SSHCO.